have a moment of silence in honor of all of the men and women who died defending our country. And that was just Memorial Day on Monday. And so if you would all stop for just a moment and we'll have a moment of silence. Thank you. We want to thank them and their families. And at this time, I'd like to ask Derek Luna if he would stand and lead the Pledge of Allegiance for us.
Please place your right hand over your heart. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
I'd like to get approval of item 3C, approval of agenda. Is there a motion?
I move to approve our agenda for today.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lynn. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. And the motion carries. All right, we're going to move on now to staff reports, and we'll go to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Thompson. I'd like to begin by saying I'd like to welcome our guests on Zoom, which include our student board member, Natalie Rodriguez, and also some of our happy retirees. I'm sure they're not smiling too much on the screen there. We'll get to you in just a little bit. I'd like to start by saying, as everyone's aware, our public meetings will continue to be available to the public via live streaming due to the Governor's Executive Order N3320, and the public has been informed, as noted on the posting of this evening's agenda, that any citizen wishing to be heard by the Board of Trustees may email a public comment at mgarcia@santapaulaunified.org prior to each meeting. Public comments will then be read to our board by our board president during the public comment section of the meeting. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of our last board meeting, we miss our students. All of us do. We're looking forward to having, on the other hand, as we miss our students, we're looking forward to having the drive-through graduations at Santa Paula High School on Monday and Tuesday, June 1 and 2. Renaissance High School will have their drive-through graduation on Tuesday evening, June 2nd. And seniors and their parents have been notified of the details by Ms. Garcia and Ms. Gillette. Though our state and county are easing up on some of the stay-at-home restrictions, we continue to provide instruction through our distance learning program. And while we wish our students were back in school, I wanted to commend our dedicated teachers and support staff for doing everything they can do to provide instruction and support our students while they are at home. So thank you to our teachers and support staff and administrators for all you do. I'm very sure everyone is wondering, when will students be able to return back to school? So before determining when and how the beginning of the school year will look like, there are still several questions that need to be answered. Most importantly, we must follow the safety guidelines provided by the health officials at the state level, as well as the California Ventura County Public Health Department. Parents will be kept informed over the summer as new information becomes available. And again, thank you to all of our parents who are working with their children to support their learning from home. We are all doing the best we can to provide students the support they need. So on behalf of the Board of Trustees and Administrators, to everyone, please be safe, stay healthy, and this concludes my superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Cora. And now, superintendent committee updates. The Board of Trustees are appointed to committees and attend meetings accordingly. At this time, board members may wish to update their colleagues and or ask for feedback. Of course, there have been a few meetings lately, so I'll just go down the row. Mrs. Urias, do you have any reports?
Yes, I do. I'm part of a legislative committee of California School Board Association, and what we have been given is like a 5-page handout on discussing COVID-19 with your local legislators. And what I'd like to do is probably leave a copy with Dr. Cora today, and to get these guidelines and tips on how to deal with our legislators to the rest of my board members, because we know the impact COVID is having on our budget, and so we need to speak with our legislators and address this head on. So I'll be doing that, and I'll be giving the copy to Dr. Cora to pass on to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Urias. Mr. Luna?
The only update that I have is that Ms. Colwick and myself, Dr. Cora, have a meeting coming up at the City Center Hall.
And Mrs. Colbeck, do you have anything? And Mrs. Neat?
No, we haven't had another CAP meeting.
Okay. And I'm on the scholarship committee, and the scholarships will be handed out in a virtual, the virtual award ceremony. So, all right, we will now
Excuse me, I forgot, this is a good time to probably thank the city and Clint Garman for helping to get the trees trimmed on Santa Paula Street so that all of our seniors can get seen on the fences. So thank you to the city for their effort.
Oh, thank you for that, Mrs. Colbeck. That's very kind. All right, thank you so much. And now we will go on to item 5, recognition, student board member recognition. Dr. Cora?
Thank you, President Thompson. So quick question to our Zoomers. Can you see anything? We can see you. Can you see us? You can?
Yes.
Yes, I can see you.
Okay. So I'll stay here then. I was going to pick up the mic and go move somewhere, but if you can see me from here, then that'll work. So I'm going to start with our recognition of our student board member, Miss Natalie Rodriguez. Natalie, can you wave to everybody, please? So Natalie surprised myself, and she surprised Miss Garcia. We both thought she was a senior. She is only a junior. So Natalie will be back next year. I don't know if she'll be a board member again, but so Natalie, I have a certificate of recognition for you that reads, certificate of recognition, Natalie Rodriguez, in recognition of your service as a student board member for the 2019-20 school year, Santa Paula Unified School District, May 27, 2020. So Natalie, congratulations. Thank you for being on with us. And I know you're going to have a fantastic educational year next year, as well as athletic career, because I think you have, I hope they allow wrestling next year, Natalie. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But good luck, and thank you very much. I have to now get this to you somehow. But thank you for being on with us, and thank you for being with us the whole year.
All right, and recognition item B, district retirees for the 2019-2020 school year. Dr. Cora?
To our retirees, and Natalie, very quickly, is there anything you want to quickly say, Natalie?
Oh, thank you. and I'll be returning back as, for next year as Commissioner of Peace. So, yeah.
Natalie, I love it, short, sweet, to the point. Thank you, Natalie. We look forward to seeing you next year. All right, to our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I've got, I believe, 8 of our wonderful retirees on screen, and I hope I'm not missing anybody. Yeah, I'm going to read them all off. So here we go. So to our retirees, on behalf of the Board of Trustees, staff, students, and parents, we'd like to say thank you for your years of service in the Santa Paula Unified School District. And as a token of our appreciation, we'd like to present you with this plaque, which partially reads, and I'll go to each one of you just a little bit here. Congratulations on your retirement in appreciation of your years of service, dedication, and commitment. And of course it has your name, and of course it has your years of service. So again, I thank each one of you and wish you the very best during your years of retirement. So I'm going to go through the line, down the line, but I know some right here. I do not believe Anthony Hurtado is with us, classified employee, 3 years. Lynn Jordan Tovar, educator, 5 years. Nick Dalton, educator, 12 years. Now I know the next retiree is with us, because I was just chatting with him just the other day, how excited he is about getting in his RV and taking off and going all over the United States. Dr. George Williams, administrator, 13 years. Dr. Williams, want to say anything?
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. Yeah, just looking forward to the graduation on Monday and Tuesday. We're still working with students. Matter of fact, I was just up proving a test on cyber high for seniors. So we're still getting them done and finished and ready for Monday.
Thank you, Dr. Williams, and enjoy that RV. Mesa Teacher of the Year, Mr. Kurt Wilkinson, educator, 16 years. Mr. Wilkinson. Wait, Mr. Wilkinson, ready? Let me hand you the award.
Here we go.
Good job. Anything, would you like to say anything?
Just thank you very much. It was an honor and a privilege to teach the students at Santa Paula, and I appreciate the time at Isabel and Santa Paula High School. And it was a great ride, a lot of fun, and I get to also have taught my son for 3 years. I'm graduating with him, and so a lot of the focus, of course, is on their graduation. I'm looking forward to the next week with them as well. And Natalie, congratulations to you, and I'm glad I was your teacher this year. That was a lot of fun. While it lasted, I wish I could be there for you next year, but I'm sure you'll be in good hands. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkinson. Shak Boldaji, educator, 17 years. Shak, congratulations. Would you like to say anything? Wait. Hold on. Good. All right, try now. Can you, Shak, do you know how to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay. I just wanted to say that it's been wonderful 17 years, and thank you for your support and guidance. I'm going to miss the kids and the staff as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sean. Congratulations. Olivia Wyatt, classified employee, 17 years. Elva Valdivia, classified employee, 20 years. Now, there's one up there that says Regina's iPhone, but no face. Who's Regina behind the Regina's iPhone? Because I don't want to miss anybody. Behind Regina's iPhone. I'd hate to miss you, but I'm not sure who's back there. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Dolores Britton, educator, 22 years. Dolores, congratulations. Would you like to share some wisdom?
Yes. Thank you, board. I started in kindergarten and I worked there for 15 years. And then I was moved to second grade for the last 7. I loved second grade, especially teaching my former kindergarten students. Because kindergarten, you are a planter of seeds, and it's not quantifiable what you do. These seeds have to grow. So it was very satisfying to get 10 of my former kindergartners my first year in second grade. It was just such a joy. Wow, all that work. And this is what happens when you plant good seeds. So, yeah. I'm going to miss the children, of course, and I plan on coming back and reading stories because I love to share good literature with the children. I'm also going to be playing music, working in the garden, painting, reading, and doing all the things that are the luxuries of the soul. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dolores, and again, congratulations and enjoy your time off. Becky Contreras, educator, 22 years. That's not Becky behind Regina's iPhone, is it? Oh, okay, where's Becky?
I'm right here.
Becky, the floor is yours. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everybody. And I wanted to say, Natalie, it's so nice to see you. Natalie's one of my former students. And congratulations to you, Natalie. Thank you for everything, Santa Paula. That's all.
Thank you, Becky. Congrats. Enjoy your time off.
Thank you.
Mr. Tony Atalano, Classified Management, 24 years. Mr. Atalano, you are on.
Hi, thanks a lot. I really appreciate this. It's an honor. What a great ride to them for 24 years. And it's a beautiful way to end my career. So I really appreciate it. I love being here to serve all of our students, staff, and for all of the members of our department, current and former. We're like family. Love you all. Thank you all so much. Everybody that remains after our retirement. You guys have a lot of hard work ahead of you, so God bless you all. Good luck, and once again, thank you very much.
And Mr. Atalano would say the dedicated employee that you are actually working right now, am I correct?
Yes, sir, I am. I love you every moment.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. Next up, retiree, Carol Larman, educator, 24 years. Congratulations, Carol. Next, we have up in, I want to say congratulations to Tammy Mosby, educator, 24 years, but Tammy lost one of her children most recently, so I'm going to say this must be just, I'm not even sure what words to use. Our hearts, our prayers go out to Ms. Mosby. Congratulations on the retirement, however, our hearts go out to you, and our thoughts and prayers go out to you as well. Next, I'm going to move on to Mr. Jeff Robinson, administrator, 26 years. Mr. Robinson, another RVer.
I'm right, I'm going to beat myself. Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. First thing I'm going to say is the same thing I've been saying to everyone who's been asking me about my retirement in school, students and parents and everyone. I said, this has been a strange ending to the year. I said, not a proper way to say goodbye, so I will be back to say a proper goodbye to my students and my staff, for sure. It's been great being in Santa Paula for so many years, teaching and also being an administrator, being on committees with so many different positive and helpful people. Again, thank the board so much for having me and supporting me through my administration and my teaching, so thank you so much.
Thank you, Jeff, and congratulations.
Thanks.
Next, we have Carolyn Tabor, educator, 26 years. Carolyn, congratulations. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, everyone. You know, I first came into Santa Paula when the district office was on 144 Davis Street. I don't know if any of you remember that, but that was many, many years ago. And so, of course, we made so many wonderful friends over the years. The staff, I've been to all schools as a speech therapist. I fit all of them, including the high school. So I feel really good about that. So I've met many, many people along the way. I've learned so much, and especially with these last few months, more computer skills than I ever thought I would learn. So thank you so much, Santa Paula, for the board, for administrative staff, and all the speech therapists here who have worked in the district who've been so supportive of me too. So thank you.
Karen, thank you, and again, congratulations. Karen Giroux, educator and counselor for 27 years. Karen, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm here with my mom and my kids and a friend, and I'm enjoying this excitement of retirement. I'm looking forward to the next chapter in my life. Thank you so much for all your support. I personally know so many of the board members and appreciate their support through the years, and I just ask that the Lord will bless all of you, and that He'll keep us in His care.
Thank you, Karen. And Karen Kurt, I think Mr. Adelano tell me, I was supposed to tell you that I'm going to give you your plaque, and like Kurt did, you're supposed to then pull it out in front of you, but I totally forgot. So to those who had it ready, good job. All right, next, I'm not sure if the last two are with us, but George Conrad, educator, 30 years with the district. Congratulations, George. And last one I have on my list, Marianne Romero, educator, 31 years with Santa Paula Unified School District. Congratulations, Marianne. I'm still thinking whoever's behind Regina's iPhone, I'm missing somebody. Does anybody know who that is? Boy, I hate to miss this opportunity, but I think I'm going to miss it. All right, so I will close by saying this to our retirees. Congratulations. It's quite the honor, the work you put in, the dedication, the service to our students. But it is now time, well, not quite yet, almost time, to just completely enjoy, do the whatever, whenever, however you want to do it. You've earned it. Enjoy your retirement. Congratulations to each and every one of you. Way to go. Thank you. You're officially excused from the meeting if you want to check out.
Now we have arrived at public comments, item number 6. In accordance with Governor Newsom's executive orders N3320 and N2920, respectively, in regards to the coronavirus, members of the public will continue to have the right to observe the public meeting via live streaming at www.kabytv.net and submit comments in writing prior to the start of the meeting at mgarcia@santapaulaunified.org. Please limit written remarks to 3 minutes unless otherwise informed. In accordance with Education Code 35145.5, the board cannot enter into a formal discussion or make a decision on any matter not on the agenda for this meeting. I have 3 public comments. The first one is the topic is school locker room pickup from Mrs. Jeanette Ortega. Hello everyone, short on time to address everyone properly. I was told there would be another school locker room pickup for Isbell. I have come to find out that will not occur at Isbell nor at the high school. A timely notification on this matter did not occur. How are the 8th graders supposed to recover their stuff if they aren't going to high school? If they are going to high school, I'm sorry. I will hold accountable the district for any of my son's lost items for not properly notifying me and other parents for pickup. All right, and then the next one is from Kate Stewart. I think this might be Kelsey Stewart, former board member. Hello, I am the parent of a high school junior at Santa Paula High School. When the quarantine started, we understood that the district wasn't ready for distance learning and that it would be a while until we had instructions on how the teachers would be addressing the students. I received lots of phone calls and text messages from the high school regarding distance learning like 3 a night. However, not once did I receive an email or call from any of my students' teachers. When spring recess was over, most students started hearing from their teachers. I kept asking my student, have you heard from your math teacher, over and over? He told me, yes, she has us working on Khan Academy, which is the only teacher that I have that has me working out of Khan. Everyone else is using Google Classroom. Sure enough, 2 weeks ago, 2 months after school was let out due to the quarantine, I got a phone call from my son's math teacher telling me how concerned she was about his grade. Seems we needed a code to get into her classroom on Khan Academy. Neither my son or I knew that, so my son was basically doing work that didn't count towards his grade. Now that he's in her classroom online, he's turning work in, and she is not giving him credit when he uses the hints from Khan Academy. Today, he received 3 out of 85 because he used the hints out of frustration from not understanding the lesson. I have no idea how you are going to get through the grades for this semester, but as a parent, I want you to know that distance learning is not the same for every teacher, and it's been incredibly hard as a parent and a high school student to follow along what has been happening over the last 2 months. Thank you for the phases and hard work on your end, but I'm not sure it was relayed to the teachers the same way you relayed the info to the parents. It's been frustrating and difficult to navigate this new way of learning with some of your high school teachers, as I don't believe they are getting the same memos as the parents from the district. Thank you, Kelsey Stewart. And the last one is the agriculture program update from Alex Flores. Good evening. Good evening, President Thompson, members of the board, Dr. Cora, Mrs. Shefferly, and Mrs. Stachewski. Alex Flores, agriculture teacher, FFA advisor. I wanted to take a quick moment to acknowledge our students who are raising livestock and have been committed through this COVID-19 pandemic. We have been taking every precaution to make sure kids are following health and safety protocols from the Ventura County Health Department, VCOE, CVE, and at Santa Paula Union High School District. Some steps we have taken are, number 1, making sure kids are following all social distancing protocols. Number 2, adding hand sanitizer and antibacterial soap by all the water valves. Number 3, remove the portable restroom and hand washing station closer to the barn entrance. Number 4, waiting for 2 more hand washing stations. 5, barns are getting washed down daily. 6, door handles, gates, tools, and wheelbarrows are getting sprayed down by disinfectant. Number 7, kids are making sure to wear masks whenever possible. I have been supervising students and monitoring livestock projects every day. Ventura County Fair. Although we are entering into stage 3, the Ventura County Fair has been canceled. We have submitted an activity request to coordinate a livestock show and auction on Friday, July 31st, July the 31st through Saturday, August the 1st. Due to the cancellation of the Ventura County Fair, this would allow for students to compete in a livestock show and have the opportunity to sell their livestock projects in order to make a small profit and support families financially during this pandemic. A detailed plan has been developed and submitted as part of the activity request. Approval is pending. Congratulations. Lastly, I wanted to congratulate Karen Giroux for her retirement as counselor for the agriculture program for the past 17 years. She has been instrumental in supporting our students throughout their 4 years of high school, making sure they are on track to graduation, supporting students, and dedicating her time to many activities, community service, leadership activities, conferences, and field trips for our students in the agriculture program. She has impacted so many lives and has really dedicated her career to serving all of our students on campus. Also, Julia Fernandez, senior in the Agriculture Science Academy, president of our FFA chapter, has maintained above a 4.0 GPA throughout high school and many other accolades for being awarded one of the highest awards of Santa Paula High School, the Helen Crane Partisan Award, Best Senior Female of the 2020 graduating class. Anahi Chavez, a sophomore and soon-to-be junior, for getting elected regional officer for the South Coast region, representing the Ventura section for the 2020-21 school year. She will be leading various leadership activities, events, to 46 FFA chapters from San Jose to Los Angeles. Again, thank you for allowing me to give a few acknowledgments and announcements. Looking forward to beginning a new school year. Thank you. Alex Flores, agriculture teacher, FFA advisor, CPA coordinator, Agriculture Science Academy, FFA. And I believe that is all of the public comments. And so now we will move on to information items, number 7. 7A, the budget update. Staff will provide the Board of Trustees with any pertinent budget information. Dr. Cora?
Thank you, President Thompson. The board has asked for budget updates at each one of our board meetings, and so Mrs. Shefsky is here this evening, not here literally, but virtually, and she will provide a budget update for the board and take any questions afterwards. Mrs. Shefsky.
Are we able to put up the document, or would you like me to share it on Zoom?
As a matter of fact, I believe it's up there already. We have, well,
we did. If someone can give me access, I can throw the document up on the screen.
Yeah, Mrs. Shefsky, while you're waiting, can you also email it to myself and the board?
Oh, it's up there. It's attached to the agenda if they want to pull it from there.
No, I don't see it.
If you go back to the agenda, it's been attached. Would you like me to proceed or wait?
I will go ahead. Marcella, can you forward that as an email?
This is the unrestricted general fund. On the left, you can see the second interim budget report. This is what was presented to the board back in March. I have the current year and next year included. And adjacent to that, we have our preliminary adopted budget. So that would be our estimated actuals for the 1920 year, as well as where we are at this point with preliminary budget. There are a few items that still remain to be completed, so there will be some possible shifts and adjustments to some of these figures. It is preliminary. Most notably, I have not included any federal stimulus dollars for COVID expenses. There are a number of federal stimulus packages being discussed. Some have come through, some have strings attached, some require an application. So we're still weeding through that, and I don't want to throw dollars in there that might not materialize. And we'll be getting more and more information in the coming weeks and months. Also, we're still working on LCAP expenditures, so I hope to be wrapping that up in the next day or so. And finally, it does not include any impact that we might receive from other funds, namely our food service fund, which has been operating in the black up until this year. And this was anticipated. They had some carryover that has been getting them along. And again, we're estimating through the end of the year. We are operating in a different manner. And there's a lot of question as to whether we will actually be fully funded for our food service. back in the recession, specifically the state portion of reimbursement, sometimes you wouldn't get your June apportionment. They would run out of apportionment and they would cut everybody off. So that is a risk that we face, all districts face currently. But I wanted to notate that those are not currently included in what you're seeing tonight. And last board meeting, we discussed the significant cuts that were being proposed. With the May revise, we are looking at a 10% cut to LCFF, a net reduction of about just shy of 8%. What they're doing is they're adding the COLA of 2.31 to next year and backing out 10%. So what that looks like for us, you can see, well, let's start with the 1920 column first. Under COLA adjustments, you can see actually a positive number. We do benefit this year because they cut off P2 about a month and a half early. So we picked up about 20 ADA. So that's going to help with our revenue projections. So we're going to get a little bit more this year. And so if you compare year to year, we're about 30,000 different between second interim and estimated actuals, going from 54.295 million at second interim to 54,331,000. And then if we just look a little bit further down at the expenditures, we are picking up some expenses because there's a lot of services that we could not provide because we've been closed since March 16th, essentially. So we will not be expending things such as certificated substitutes, classified substitutes. We do have other expenses that we did anticipate, but overall, we're going to experience about an $800,000 savings from what we projected at second interim. So instead of spending $57 million, we anticipate closing the year at about $56.385 million. So that all being said, instead of deficit spending in the current year, $2.7 million, which is the number in red and bold on net increase decrease, we project to deficit spend just over $2 million. Which will push us into the next year with a little bit more ending fund balance, which is definitely what we need. Another part of the May revise is a lot of incorporation of some deferrals. It's kind of like we're going back to 2008-9 again. And we will be experiencing a deferral in the current year. So our June apportionment, the dollars we anticipate receiving for LCFF in June, will be pushed to next year. At this point, they're saying we'll get it in July. And it's kind of an accounting trick that the state is essentially showing that they're going to give less this year, but telling us to act as though we're getting it this year. So it's an accounting situation, but it's a cash flow issue in the future. Luckily, we have a nice fund balance right now, which equates to cash for us. But we will start having issues in probably 12 to 18 months because there's only one deferral proposed for the current year, but there's 3 months worth of deferrals proposed for next year. That would be April, May, and June apportionments, which is about 27% of our dollars will be pushed out of next year into later months in the following year. And the way that I look at deferrals is kind of like a payday loan. It gets harder and harder to pay them back. And so until the state becomes kind of cash heavy and their revenues increase, they're not going to be able to get rid of those deferrals for quite a while. It took us years to get rid of the deferrals that were implemented a decade ago. So that's one thing we need to be conscientious of. So the more money we can retain by reducing our expenses and retaining our reserves, the less cash flow problems we're going to experience. Can you scroll back up, sort of? I don't have control of the document. Okay, so now let's look at the 2021 school year. Again, at second interim, we estimated we were going to have about $54.8 million in revenue, total revenue. You can see the drastic reduction to $45.7 million now with the May revise. We're getting about a $5.5 million cut if the full 10% is reduced in LCFF next year. That is contingent on some federal funding, so the state's hoping that the federal government will stimulate all states and that they can then reduce the reduction accordingly. I don't have the multi-year projection, the 2 subsequent years included tonight, but when you compare what that looks like going out with anticipating no additional COLA in the out years, which is currently what we are anticipating, what's being recommended through school services of California and our county. From what we projected for the 21-22 school year, it's escalating to a $7.2 million cut in revenue. Again, because we had multi-year projections that assumed regular COLA increases. So as soon as you take those out, that compounding effect goes the other way. And it starts impacting our revenue projections more and more. So you can see that's a drastic shift in total funding. Now, if we take our attention now to adopted budget expenditures, and remember this is going to change before the final adopted, this is just preliminary information. We go from, at second interim, with a $3 million reduction, which was the amount that was identified by the board to reduce, which would have brought us to $53.3 million. We have now implemented those reductions in the budget. And you can see that we anticipate having expenses currently, which is going to be adjusted slightly, about that amount. So we came in at about 3.2, just shy of 3.2 million in reductions from the current year, from what we projected to what we are projecting now. Again, the positions we identified and brought to the board, as well as reductions to site and department budgets. Unfortunately, when we made those plans, the current economic situation did not exist. And while we've made significant reductions in the current year of 3 million, you can see that our anticipated deficit spending, because we're losing so much in revenue next year, we're still going to be projected deficit spending almost $7.5 million. And if we could scroll down a little bit, you can see what that's going to do to our ending fund balance. We're going to go from 14.3 million to just shy of $7 million. If we extrapolate that out by the 21-22 school year, we don't make our economic uncertainty. Excuse me. So these are very significant reductions that the state is anticipating. We know that it's affecting our local communities, our state, the national and the world economies. So we have some more reductions to identify because we cannot continue to deficit spend at that rate. So that's kind of where we at. I thought I might open up to the board for some questions at this point.
Do we have, excuse me, do we have the numbers for our enrollment for next year? Because kindergarten roundup.
I have kept the same estimates as second interim. That's what's been incorporated into this. Chrissy might want to jump in. I know we've received some, but we don't believe that we've received all the registrations.
Low.
Correct. We've received them, and staff is in the process of entering those, so we don't have up-to-date numbers yet.
And I think next year is very up in the air whether these students are going to come back in a normal capacity. One, how are we going to operate school next year? And two, no matter how we operate school next year, how many students are going to show up? And then the third issue is, based off of how we provide education next year, how are we going to be truly funded? Because the current funding model requires a minimum number of instructional days and a minimum number of instructional minutes. Distance learning does not does not mesh with that particular calculation. So unless we get flexibility from the state, which we aren't hearing that we will, yet we are going to be tasked with, if we bring students back, staggering them. If we try to get them all their instructional minutes, we have to have extra staff to provide that. It's my professional opinion is it's a mess. So there's some talks about hold harmlesses to currently we have the high for funding, we get funded on the higher of your current or prior year ADA. There's been talk about making it a 2-year situation so that we'd still be looking at potentially 18-19 ADA instead of 19-20. There's not a lot of answers, there's just a lot of questions right now. So unfortunately, we're going into this adopted budget with a lot of unanswered questions. And I fully anticipate across the state, we will be revising our adopted budget pretty immediately because we should get more information, one, after the state adopts their budget by June 30, or two, later on, August, September timeframe when the states actually calculated all their receipts and closed their year.
No matter how you look at it, it's not a pretty picture. But all districts in the state are basically in the same boat.
And this is something we've never experienced before. We've obviously had recessions, but recessions come on over a period of time, and districts typically don't feel it until a year or two after it happens, and then we deal with it a year or two after it ends. But we're feeling this immediately because of a number of factors, but we're very closely tied to taxes, and there's been a lot of concessions made on filing taxes and paying taxes that are making this a big question mark.
And you said something earlier, Mrs. Shepsky, that most of the major organizations, ACTS and others, are asking the state for flexibility. When you talked about the minutes and how to calculate the funding, we're all asking for flexibility from the state level.
Yeah, there's a number of different approaches that are being requested, but it's getting down to our current calculation doesn't work with the way that we're being asked to provide education. So it's making those two match so that we can afford to provide the educational services that we're being asked to provide.
Excuse me, I know this is an unpopular discussion, but is there a way to look at all the open classrooms that we have on sites? Because we had discussed prior to COVID ongoing, maybe having to close sites, and maybe we're going to have to look at a hard look to keep the numbers per classroom, but physically, even if we're not opening, we don't need the physical part of the classroom. So that's another ongoing discussion we need of how many classrooms are empty at each site and how many students are projected for each site. We did that many times in the elementary and had to make shifts accordingly.
Yes, facilities are definitely going to be a topic once we determine the way we're providing the services.
I just want to thank the previous boards for really holding to the reserve so that we have at least some options and we weren't down to the 3% in our reserves where we would be in major trouble right about now. So thank you for the foresight of boards in the past.
So, Sherry, when will we hear from the federal government? Do we have an idea of if we're going to get any?
I don't know. So the CARES Act, that actually has been appropriated to the states, and now it's the state and our governor deciding how those dollars will be distributed. And I think he's broken the CARES Act into 2 allocations, one for all districts and one for, concentration districts, so districts receiving concentration funding, so anyone with 55% or more unduplicated pupils, which Santa Paula qualifies for. Those do have a timeline that they need to be spent. I believe it's the end of the calendar year, December 30 or 31. But there's also an application process, is my understanding, which the application process hasn't been made available. And then, of course, there's the other additional federal stimulus that have been being presented at the federal level, and I don't know where we're at with that yet.
Any other comments or questions from the board?
I just want to add that when we look at these numbers, we, as a board, should start considering, I know we've already done it before, but we need to start considering the priorities of
upgrade at the high school, 1.2, and we have a McMahan Seismic retrofit included here. So that's where we stop with the first three that we've already are currently underway with. And then we get to a pool repair. As you're all aware, we've had significant issues with our high school pool. The equipment's old, the pool's very old, and it needs some help. So at a minimum, if we were to replace it, like for like with new materials, and a material that would give us a 20-year warranty, we have gotten some quotes, and that'd be about $1 million to keep the existing pool configuration. Kevin, do you mind chiming in whether that was just the pool or all the surfaces around as well?
That will take care of everything, including the surrounding.
Okay, because those were also issues with public health. So it would be addressing all those issues when we have a working pool, current size, to move forward with. So again, that's about $1 million. We've also gotten some drawings and proposals from a pool company to expand the pool, make it larger. And we've gotten a number of quotes. There is one, I think that meets the specifications of sizes that we would consider a good pool size for competition, so on and so forth. That will push into the adjacent lot that we currently rent. So that area would be taken over. Kevin, was it just their backyard or the whole lot?
Doing it with the reality is the new walls out. So, they completely eliminate their back. Kevin, you're cutting out. It's hard to hear you.
Doug, are you able to jump in?
Yes. The way the drawings are laid out, it takes away the garage of the house, but in reality, once we cross a parcel line, then we're going to have to completely overtake the parcel and have it merged. So the short answer is that yes, the house and the garage would be eliminated if we did a new pool configuration.
Thank you. And that estimated cost is about $5.5 million, just to put it in perspective. So back up to pool repairs, right below that, we have to finish the HVAC in the classrooms at the high school after we finish the electrical upgrade, and we're estimating that to be about $1 million. And then the 600 wing CTE modernization, that's a topic for a little more discussion with the board. And when this originally came about, there were two pathways or areas that we were applying for that would have given us a little bit more money. We did apply last year. We did not receive the fund. We did not get approved for the CTE funding, FP, sorry. And we reapplied this year. It sounds like we did not get approved for one of them, and I think we're kind of waiting for a final on the other. If the other one came through, we get about $840,000 of a $4.5 million project, leaving about $3.6 million coming from the bond. And we'll, on the next slide, open up for discussion and kind of focus on that particular project and whether or not we want to proceed. Last summer, we also came to the board with a list of roofs that need to be replaced. We did a number of those last summer. There's about $2 million left in re-roofing projects at the high school, including the pool building. So depending on what we do with the pool would impact that figure as well. And that pretty much brings us to, well, if you look at the first column, current funding, that if we did all those projects we just discussed, that'd be just shy of $11 million. Just put us in perspective. Next, I know a band room has been the topic of conversation with the board. We haven't really identified where or what that might look like, but again, bringing it to the board, trying to gauge our interest in moving forward with that and prioritizing all of these projects. Next, we have door and hardware upgrades. Again, this is to further secure the high school. We anticipate that being about $1.5 million. And then to further complete the campus with HVAC in all classrooms, we estimate 2.5. We are approaching the time that we need to resurface the field. We anticipate that to about $750,000. And then listed in the Measure Q project list was a literacy center at the high school. If we were to move forward with that, we anticipate currently about $2.5 million for that project. Also identifying the facilities master plan with a new bell system. We do anticipate that to be about $300,000. And then we've included a baseball field lighting and fencing project. My understanding is when we started construction of the 500 wing and a number of other things were going on and parking wasn't available, we started allowing people to park on the baseball field. That's come with significant costs for the district and staff, as well as materials and rental of lights, so on and so forth. So we've thrown this on there. I don't know if Kevin or Doug wants to jump in further on the rationale behind this particular project.
The current scenario and how we park cars on the field now, by the end of the season, we are having to do, essentially we have to replace every sprinkler that's on that field. We try and flag them at the beginning of the season, but those, they're little flags, they don't get paid much attention to. The rental of lights is an ongoing expense that we incur for quite a few months out of the year. I see a lot of money being spent consistently if we're going to continue to park on there. I brought this up as a recommendation to, yes, it'll cost us money up front, but it could have saved us a lot of money in the long run as well.
So essentially, we're proposing to put up permanent lighting, and we have a need for temporary fencing throughout the year to have permanent fencing installed, and really to recommend that we do not park on that field anymore to maintain the integrity of the field. Next, we have a new security camera system from the facility master's plan. We put in $300,000 in there, but to be honest, the degree and sophistication level that you want to go in with the system, you could have quite a range in cost, so that needs to be determined as well. We also have land acquisition for 3 additional lots on Palm Court, so if that's still an interest of the board to continue to buy those properties. We estimate about $1.5 million. And then finally, as we alluded to earlier, there's a placeholder here for a larger pool that would push into the adjacent lot and that would be about $5.5 million. When you look at the total, that 5.5 is not included in the 21 million. Neither is anything for the band room because we don't have a cost included. So everything after the re-roof falls into the future issuance of 10 million. And so those projects would happen at such a point that we could receive that funding. And or if on the first column, if there's projects in there that the board does not want to proceed with, that would free up dollars in our current cash to move forward with other projects lower on the list. Next page, please. Slide. So that really concludes like the information part of the presentation, and we wanted to open it up to the board for discussion. As I alluded to earlier, the 600 wing is a $4.5 million estimated project. And again, we don't anticipate currently, we know we're not going to get funding for one of I don't know if it's called a pathway, Chrissy, or,
Design
engineering, I believe, something like that. So if we only get for one, and we may not even get for that one, we get about $840,000 net that 4.5. I've had some discussions with Chrissy, and when it was originally presented to the board, it was based under the assumption that we would receive funding for both to offset the total cost. So we don't know whether we put that project to the side for, you know, future applications, and at such a point that we do get awarded for the CTEFP, or if the board is behind the project and would like to move forward with or without the CTEFP matching funds. And then, of course, we have the big topic of the pool and what direction the board would like to go with the pool. Any option from not doing anything with the pool to refurbishing the current pool or expanding the whole complex altogether. And then finally, prioritizing, looking at the list that we've provided and seeing if there's items on there that should be kept, things that should be added, and whether or not we can come to some priority on the list so that we can identify projects and get moving on them so that we can ensure that we use our bond dollars within the 3-year period that's identified. So I'll open it up to the board.
Mrs. Shepsky, thank you very much. Mr. Henning, thank you. And as Mrs. Shepsky just said, the column Measure Q current funds, that's what's proposed. If the board is looking for something different, that's where we need direction. And if the board's okay with the Measure Q current funds, then the next column is Measure Q future series. What's the board thought? What are the thoughts from the board on items listed there as well? I'm taking notes.
Because we faced a lot of uncertainties with COVID and with our budget now, I think we need to take a cautionary approach to bond money because it's one-time spending. Yes, we want to provide the newest and the best, but with all the unknowns, I think we need to be a little more cautious. I think we should actually add a COVID-19 line to this because there are going to be some really unknown expenses that we can't pull out of our regular general fund. And some of the things that was suggested in reopening schools were hygiene stations around campuses, something called the electrostatic light system, filters for all rooms called the charcoal grade, and then barriers, plexiglass. And if we diverted that right now to the bond, we could begin some of those things so we could get the schools open quicker for the high school so that they can get the education they need. So that would be a suggestion. And then if we ever got COVID-19 relief money, if they pass a $20 trillion federal bill and include us, we can always refill that thing. But I think that's a priority we should set because I don't know where that extra money is going to come to make those kind of accommodations to get the campus reopened. The other thing is that I think I would suggest we look at moving security camera system up the line. We've had some problems, and I think moving forward we may continue because of hours and this and that. So that's another suggestion I would make. And again, it's always down to whether you feed the family or buy a new car or a new couch. So I would probably go after the more practical things like roofing and any of those things that really need doing so that the facilities we have aren't damaged further down the line when we have even less money. But those are my suggestions. But I would really encourage considering having a COVID-19 fund because the bond measure does say to make health, safety, and accessibility improvements. So it's not like we'd be using the money improperly.
If I can ask a very good question, Mr. Shesky, Mr. Henning, the difference between, I'm looking at the measured concurrent fund list of 10.8 million and the 11.6 available, there's a little cushion there. Are the numbers that are estimated, are there contingency numbers in those dollar amounts?
Dr. Ford, they're educated guesses.
Okay.
So,
And I
there's a
only
little
have,
cushion in there, but it probably would have been the end of the world if we would have had the total come up to closer to 11.6.
okay, and I only ask because as Ms. Colvick talked about the security system moving up, if those numbers, and I totally get what you're saying, if those numbers are accurate, 300,000 could be included in there, but again, that's still, it's not much of a cushion, and not knowing if those amounts are underestimated or overestimated, it's our best guess, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think that maybe go back to the slide and focus on the first two, and then whether or not we want to proceed with the CTEFP and where the board is at with the pool, because that's going to identify how much really is left in the current funds versus not focusing on those two specific items first.
When will we find out about the CTEFP program?
I think we're going to know pretty soon here, probably within the next month. Would you agree, Chrissy?
Yeah, we hope so. They identified spring, so we're hoping to hear soon.
But we do know, correct me if I'm wrong, that of the two we submitted, we were not approved for one of them.
Correct, we were not approved for the engineering pathway dollars.
So that means we're only going to receive half of what we had hoped to receive.
At best, yeah, we have it, we'll receive a final allocation amount.
Okay, Ms. Chesky, Ms. Sheffield, Ms. Mead has a question or a comment.
It's a new member on the board. Could you inform me of what kind of modernization we're planning, we were or are planning for in those two?
So we were going to expand the 600 wing where the current engineering pathway is currently located. There are a number of bays and the whole building up there at the top of the hill at the high school. We were going to renovate the whole the whole building to accommodate those two pathways. And Chrissy probably has more details on the equipment and how it was going to look.
Correct.